you could get the airplane, go use it for your training, do all that kind of stuff. And then after, the
Heavy
newness
use
is
of
worn off. Yeah. And you're like,
right.
maybe I should sell it. Well, maybe instead of selling it, you already got the infrastructure set up. You got this hangar, you got the whatever, you got it
I
all.
love that idea.
Yeah. Now turn around and sell shares of it. Sell 2 shares of it, and you own a third of an airplane that you still get to use for your commuting, and you've offset your cost by 66%.
Hi, welcome to the Pro Pilot Playbook Podcast, where we give you the tips, tricks, and hacks to become a pilot faster and cheaper. I'm Mike Martin.
And I'm Sean Ritchie.
Yeah, we got a cool episode today. We got a great email that Sean she'll read in just a second. But this is an interesting topic. It's I want to be a pilot. Should I buy a plane? To save money. And
Yeah.
we're going to kind of break down whether this would save you money. And I know a lot of us, including ourselves, when we were at this level of learning to fly, didn't have the financial ability to buy a plane, and we get that. But some of you guys might, at the end of this video, think, well, maybe I should look into this a little bit harder. So Sean, go ahead and read that email you got from.
Absolutely. And not only before we get into that, I do want to say something to you guys. If you haven't checked out last week's episode that we did
It's
about
all behind me right here.
Yeah, it's actually on right behind you there. So a lot of the email, I just want to take a few seconds to mention this. We get a lot of emails about people, talking about the cadet programs. Almost all the majors have cadet programs now, and a lot of emails on the ATP flight school, which Mike and I have, been in favor of for a while. But if you haven't checked it out, this is a deep dive. It is our longest episode we've ever done, like an hour and 40 minutes or something. But it's all divided up with the chapters. So if there's something specific you're looking for, but it's a deep dive into ATP's flight school of not only how much it costs, but details into how to get the financing going, how to get started, right. How long does it take, the types of equipment they're using. They talk about their multiple locations. Episode 63 just came out last week. Check it out. And the reason why I wanted to mention this is because while I was editing that video, Mike, I'm sitting here thinking, oh my God, our viewers are going to think that we sold out and this is some type of advertisement for ATP.
Yeah.
100% not the case. We have no plans of ever advertising stuff except for our own program that we sell. It's just we've always liked ATP because they follow the principles that Mike and I are always preaching to you guys.
Yes, totally. Yes.
And
yes.
They're doing it very well, and they're doing it in locations all over the country. So,
and I actually found the interviewer Jamal from his YouTube video, and I'm like, man, this guy is doing everything right, in my opinion, as far as his steps in the career. So yeah, it's really a great interview if you guys haven't caught that yet. And no, we're not paid by them. And we'd like to, we've reached out to all these flight schools, and it's just hard to get people to come on and things like that. Right. So we're trying to do, we'd like to do more episodes on cadet programs and everything, because I know this is very valuable to people. So you're probably going to see some more of that as things evolve, for sure.
Right. The program itself, since I just mentioned it, I'll talk about it again for 5 more seconds. But in the program that Mike and I sell at propilotplaybook.com, we talk about basically taking the idea of what ATP is doing on a national grand scale and taking it to your mom and pop flight school and hacking the system to basically do it through your mom and pop flight school. Of course, there's hurdles and, it's more difficult to do it that way, but it's possible to be done. But
Yep.
Anyway,
we just want everybody to not waste money and have the right information.
Exactly.
So that's
fast and as cheap as possible.
Got it.
So
Yeah,
this,
so Sean's going to talk a lot in this video because Sean is an aircraft owner himself. I know a lot about it, but I don't have one. I'd like to borrow his sometime, but yeah. So you're going to have a lot of insight on this question, I think.
yeah, not only that, but right over here at the little airport that uh, you and I have filmed, some stuff at. The last thing, actually, it doesn't matter, but there's a girl who was flight instructing over there. She did just this. The question that Karl, I'm about to read Karl's question here. She bought a little Cessna 150, and she was flight instructing out there. She bought this Cessna, and anytime she wasn't flight instructing, she was up there burning hours away, getting closer and closer to that 1,500 hours. So let's read the email, and we'll talk about some of the pros and cons of this strategy of purchasing an airplane for yourself just to do all the training. All right, so we got Karl. Hello, Mike and Sean. I will be going after my private pilot's license very soon. I wanted to do this my whole life, and I'm not getting any younger. 43 years old, he says. I do have questions that I can certainly see are debatable, but I would love to get your opinion. My question is, before I even begin my lessons, should I purchase a plane? From what I've seen, most people are well over the 40 hours of flight time required. I hear 60 to 80 is common before they get their license. That being said, my rental fee alone is $180 per hour average. Will be at I'll be at around $11,000 to $15,000 just for the private. It seems that even if I sold the plane at the conclusion of flight lessons for the same cost I purchased it, it makes financial sense. However, I realize the additional cost of maintenance, storage, etc. will eat into those savings. What are your thoughts on this? It would seem that if I flew 5 to 6 hours per month, even after acquiring my license, that would equate to about $1,000 per month in plane rental fees. Some unique factors that may play into my situation include those below. I'm not sure, but this may change the advice you're giving me. Number one, I own my own business at this point, and I have extreme flexibility in my schedule. I could easily fly a couple hours per day, 3 to 6 days per week. That's
Great.
Yeah. Number two, I can afford to purchase this basic airplane without financing. I am leaning towards a Piper Tomahawk, Cherokee, or a Cessna 150, 172. Number three, I would like to fly back and forth between the Bay Area and Los Angeles. Oh, well, there's the reason it's $180 an hour for this airplane. Yeah, I would like to fly this airplane back and forth between the Bay Area and Los Angeles at least 1 to 2 times per month once I become licensed. And number four, I am not ruling out the possibility of a second career in aviation, and I'm open to the future me potentially enrolling in an accelerated flight school such as ATP. Oh, well, that's weird. This is actually in my true dreams, but I have to figure out what to do with my business when that comes true. Side note, there happens to be an ATP just 15 minutes from my house. So there we go again with ATP being everywhere. I really appreciate your thoughts and greatly enjoy the podcast content. With gratitude, Karl.
Awesome. Well, Karl seems like he's doing pretty good there. He's got his own business. He hardly ever works. He's got lots of money. Yep. And he still wants to be a pilot. That's great.
What's that tell you?
That's great, man. That's great. What a good email,
Yeah. So my initial thoughts are, right off the bat, no, this is not a crazy idea. This is something people have been doing a lot or over the years.
Yes.
Some things to factor in are, and you're already doing the first one, is the the cost of the airplane rental. That's not typical. $180 an hour. Who knows? They got some training airplane. That's on the upper end, I would say, of rental.
Yeah. Right.
The other thing to consider is, that drives people to this decision is how much the airplanes are scheduled at your local flight school. Is it constantly, is
Right.
it a struggle to get something on the schedule because the airplanes are always out? Because that's the other thing that happens when people aren't out there flight training. You still get the people that want to go rent the airplane to go, take their wife for an airplane ride, or, that kind of stuff. And that eats into the aircraft's availability. As far as, and in your particular situation, Karl, I don't know that I would just look at something that's 100% a training airplane. A Cessna 152 or 150, that airplane is built, manufactured. It's 100% just for flight training. And, you can't do much with it after that. So I would look at maybe something with at least a 4-place, something that you could fit 4 people in if you're going to do
Right.
this. And the other major piece of advice I would give you is I wouldn't do this before you start anything. I would go out there and, if your flight school has a couple different models of airplanes, if there is, if they got Piper and Cessna products out there, I would do a flight lesson or 2 in each one.
Right.
Make sure that, although it hasn't happened that much, I haven't seen it that much in my career, but there are situations where people come out and take a couple lessons and we never see them again.
Right.
So before I jumped in with both feet, with not knowing how deep the water is or anything like that, or the water temperature, I would go take a few lessons, get a few hours in the logbook before you start buying some. And just doing that, you're going to learn so much anyway about what you're looking for in this airplane.
Right. Yeah, I did all of my training and instructing and mostly 152s and 172s. And those would be great. I just glanced online just to look at some numbers right now. Now, obviously, a 172 is better because it's bigger and it has more capability. And for this guy, I agree 100%. If he's going to be commuting maybe between the big cities down the coast and everything, awesome idea. For straight value, though, a 150 or a 152 is going to have a lower operating cost and a lower acquisition cost. It looks like you get one of those for around 50 grand.
Yeah.
And you brought up an important point, Sean. You could probably buy them for 50, put a couple hundred hours on them, and then sell them for 50. COVID made everything crazy. Isn't the plane market the same as a car market right now? Everything's up and nuts.
It's actually, it's kind of weird. The aircraft market, at least in the jets we fly, isn't seem to be following the same trend as the automobile market, which is starting to taper off. The housing's starting to taper off, but that private jet market, it's still, maintaining. And, there's theories to that. There's less manufacturers, there's whatever, but, it is nuts in general. Yeah. The values are there. To say that you're going to lose money on this deal is probably not accurate when you go to resell.
You just got to have the 50,000 in cash laying around. But yeah, so the 150 has the Continental engine, if I believe, and then the Lycoming's in the 152. So it's a little bit better, I think. People have preferences on each or whatever, but yeah. So say you buy that plane for $50,000. And then, I remember the burn actually, the 152 burns 5.3 gallons per hour and the 172 burns 10. So on a 152, 5.3 times what is fuel cost right now? Avgas,
in California, who knows?
Yeah. What are you paying
here? I believe I'm paying like $5.70 a gallon or something like that.
$5.70. So that's only $30. Yeah, $30 an hour in fuel,
Right. Exactly. So there's always, you're going to have, you got direct operating costs and you have your hourly cost of use. But yeah, right. I would figure, your 4-place airplane, you're still going to be between 40 and $70 an hour just in gas to fly the thing.
So what are you paying? What's an annual inspection cost on your, tell everybody what you got.
So I have a Cherokee 180, which is the, but I have the Cherokee 180 Challenger, which it's basically an Archer. the last 2 years they made the Cherokee 180. They called them the Challenger, and the cabin got like 2 inches bigger, and the stabilator was redesigned to get a few more knots of speed out of it. And instead of continuing to call it the 180 Challenger, they came up with the Archer. So what I basically have is a Piper Archer.
Okay.
And yeah, I figure it cost me about $50 an hour to operate.
In fuel.
Yeah, fuel, but the rest of it isn't that. In annuals, an annual's probably 12 to $1,500. We have
for
really
the viewers,
cheap.
every year you have to have an annual maintenance inspection by a mechanic,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that to recertify, make sure it's good. So that's 12 to 1,500. Then what does the insurance cost?
Insurance is it's probably about, but this isn't going to be apples to apples for Karl's situation. I mean, we're professional pilots with over 10,000 hours and multiple jet types, and I'm a double I MEI. I'm guessing insurance for him, it's probably going to be 1,500 to $2,000 a year, I'm guessing.
Okay. And then if you want to park it inside, what's that cost?
We have and I keep putting asterisks and footnotes next to everything I'm saying because, which is the only reason why I own an airplane. I'm not a wealthy individual. It's just that, it kind of, the stars align for me that the little airport right next to me, the airport that Mike and I have we filmed a lot of the stuff out of the program we sell there. They have the cheapest hangars in, I don't know. You probably have to drive almost 2 hours to get to the next cheaper hangar. There's always a waiting list to get in there. And the hangars, my hangar is like $330 a month. But
wow.
If you went down in Lunken, I think you're looking at, $500 to $700 a month, which is Cincinnati, just down the road from us.
If you buy a beater though, to build time, and you could leave it outside, I guess.
You could just tie it down, and the weather in California, I mean, that's the main reason people move there is it's beautiful every day. So you could do a tie down.
I do remember this from when I was an instructor, and it could be a little bit of a factor. Like if there might be somebody watching, like, I'm going to buy the cheapest possible plane with, this close to needing an overhauled motor that still flies, and that burns as little gas as possible. And I'm going to do this on a budget, and I'm going to make money. The one problem is I can remember when people would come to the flight school and they're looking for an instructor. If you had a real crappy airplane with a timed out engine or something, guys are like, I ain't flying in that. You know what I mean? Because I don't know how it's maintained or anything. So you do got to run into that. What are instructors charging? I mean, it was like 25 or $30 an hour back then. I'm sure it's way higher now, right?
We just had, he was saying out in Phoenix, the retired Coast Guard guy we had in Phoenix, what were they getting? It was like $150 an hour or something in Phoenix.
For instruction?
I think so. Yeah. Didn't he say that? He said, but here I think it's like 40. It's $40 or something. Yeah, $40 an hour. Maybe if you're doing advanced something or other, it might be $50-$60 an hour or something like that.
But you're going to be paying that regionally wherever you're at, whether you own the plane or not. You're going to have the instructor on top of that. So. Yeah, man. I mean, this is so we're kind of breaking down the cost of ownership. So everybody knows too, this is very important. You'll see that acronym because a lot of people are going to watch this video and start looking at Trade a Plane. That's kind of like Auto Trader for airplanes. Sure. You'll see that the engine
controller. There's an app you can get on your phone. That's a good one too. They got
yeah. So the big thing is the overhaul time on the engine on any of these light planes. So Sean, let them know a little about what that is.
All right. Yeah. So these airplanes, a lot of them are old. I mean, like that Cherokee I own is a 1975, but the engine in it is brand new. That's the thing that, it doesn't really matter how old the rest of it is. Because the motor, I actually just got a rebuilt motor put in it. That's one of the reasons I got the airplane. I got it cheap because it was past overhaul.
Mhm.
Um, so these engines every 2,000 hours have to be overhauled, which is basically rebuilt. And usually what happens is when that comes up at your next annual, which is what I did, the next annual, we just went ahead and we had an engine. You order a rebuilt engine, and that engine was right at about 30 grand. Maybe it was, after all the dust settled to have installed, it was about 33 grand. But
Mhm.
the aircraft value is directly tied to how many hours are left before overhaul. You can literally get your calculator out, put in what it costs to overhaul, and divide by 2,000, and you figure the airframe and you add that number to the airframe. It
Mhm.
is, and then there's other things that go into it. What kind of avionics are in it? That's the other thing I would recommend, Karl, is when you're searching for this, you're probably going to want to get your instrument rating. Look at an airplane that's either already IFR, got all the components in it, making it IFR certified, or something you can see that with a extra couple few $1,000, you can make it IFR certified. And with all the GPS and RNAV stuff, it doesn't take that much these days to get it to that point, really. Um, but yeah, the avionics and TBO, time before overhaul, are the two biggest items.
And then sometimes he has, isn't it like S since major overhaul or something, the
Yeah,
time
yeah.
or time
Sometimes,
since
yeah, when you're looking at
major
these
overhaul.
listings, yeah, you'll see TBO, time before overhaul. You'll see SMOH, since major overhaul.
Right. Right.
Um, and then if you get into constant speed prop, um, which
Prop
is
overall. Yeah.
yep. There's prop overhaul.
And we wouldn't recommend anybody buying a constant speed really for
Yeah,
this
not for flight training. You're just opening yourself in this, not for this particular thing. You're,
situation. Yeah.
yeah. Something an airplane you're getting for flight training and for time building.
Mhm.
But yeah, Karl, the ATP, you have your own airplane in this situation. You got an instructor that you like, somebody with a schedule. You can, you know, get him to follow your availability, and he's wanting to be out there with you that much, and he may want to. You may actually. When I was a flight instructor, I had a guy that owned his own airplane, and we were working on instrument and commercial stuff. And actually, that's a lie. He got that airplane before he even had his private. So,
Mhm.
and I loved going to fly with him versus the flight school, because the flight school charged, I think back then it was like $25 an hour for my time, but I didn't get $25 an hour. I got
Right.
I got the $13 an hour or 14 or whatever it was. But when I flew with him, he not only paid me the full amount, but he was giving me like $30 an hour.
Wow.
So
Yeah, that's great.
I was chomping at the bit to go fly with him. So you may find a flight instructor that just becomes your personal guy or girl.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Mike and I are always harping on, speed is king in this thing. The more times you fly, the whatever, you'll breeze right through this. And you keep this guy busy, he'll leave that flight school and become your guy.
Yeah.
Couple other things I wanted to mention on this that I've seen people do over the years with this whole buying an airplane for, and this, before I say this, if you have a flight school, if you're planning on going, this would not be, you're going to save money with this, and you're not going to, I don't think you're going to lose money on the back end, but
Right.
I don't think you're going to save enough money to deal with the hassle. And I'm saying this, if you have a flight school that has plenty of airplanes, plenty of instructors,
Yeah.
things aren't crazy overpriced, this
Mhm.
is not the move you make. This is, you're introducing a lot of extra variables and problems that you don't need. But Karl, in your situation where you're already talking about using it for commuting, that you got the dough to pull it off. It's not going to, this isn't some huge hurdle you're going to have to jump through to make this happen. This,
Right.
and you're in an overpriced market out there in
Right.
California. This may be the move you make.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it sounds like for him really good. Yeah, I think that's important. You bring that point up, and this is probably a misconception, but um, uh, most professional pilots that I know don't own planes. Like you're a rarity, really, that own one. Like people think, oh yeah, you're a you're fly for Delta or something. You must have an airplane. It's not as common as what people think. You have people that fly professionally, and then people that fly for a hobby, and a lot of those people fly for a hobby because they can't fly professionally because they wish they would have. You know what I mean? But I'm not saying it's totally rare, but it's not like 80% of the pilots own planes.
Right. No, yeah. I remember this old guy back when I was learning how to fly little airplanes. He was an airline guy, and he actually did own an airplane. He's like, yeah, it's kind of funny how us pilots, we spend all our time in these little airplanes getting all these hours and ratings and certificates so we can go fly a big airplane just so we can turn around and afford a little airplane.
That's funny. And you're right. It might be the age group we're in. Everybody's having babies and things, and they don't have the disposable income to buy a plane. Now, when we all get a little further in our careers, we might have them for sure.
And that is, and yeah, you just hit it saying the babies. That is the sole reason I would have never, this opportunity came along for me to buy an airplane. And it was an extremely lucrative deal in my head because the airplane was cheap. I got these cheap hangars here, everything.
New motor.
Yeah. And I knew this airplane, a guy that I used to flight instruct with, owned this airplane. I'd been in it before. And I have two sons that are interested in being pilots. Yeah. So I basically bought this airplane to teach my two boys how to fly.
Great idea.
The main reason I bought it.
Yeah.
A couple other real quick things that I want to mention that anybody watching this thinking, oh man, this situation's me. This flight school only has one airplane and it's always done. I need to buy an airplane and I can get this done. Here's some other things you can do, a little hack, if you will, to make this possibly more affordable. There's a flight school in Cincinnati that does this. If you own your own airplane, you can lease it back to a flight school. So obviously you want to have this conversation if you're banking on this being the thing you do, but you could lease the airplane anytime you're not using the airplane. You could lease it to the flight school for them to use, and then you get a cut of the rental fee. Now there's some extra hoops to jump through to use an aircraft for flight instruction or rental, and especially flight instruction. It has to be inspected every 100 hours. Right. Higher maintenance standard, but that's totally something that could be done. Something else you could do, and then maybe, a lot of your maintenance costs are covered. Right. You could work out something else. It's going to also require a higher insurance rate, but if it's under the umbrella of the flight school's insurance, I don't know, maybe they got some killer deal. Maybe you'll save money on insurance. I don't.
Right.
Awesome.
Right.
That's
what about partnerships too?
Partnerships. That's the perfect thing. So maybe there's somebody else out at this flight school you could, get in with that is possibly thinking the same thing, or maybe somebody's already got their pilot's license that would be willing to get an airplane. You could also, and you could go halvesies on the initial purchase, or in your case, Karl, it sounds like, you're well off enough. You don't necessarily need to do that. You could get the airplane, go use it for your training, do all that kind of stuff. And then after, the newness is worn off. Yeah. And you're like, maybe I should sell it. Well, maybe instead of selling it, you already got the infrastructure set up. You got this hangar, you got or whatever, you got it all.
I love that idea.
Yeah. Now turn around and sell shares of it. Sell 2 shares of it, and you own a third of an airplane that you still get to use for your commuting, and you've offset your cost by 66%.
Yeah, that's great. There's so many times, and it's not just airplanes. You hear guys that have RVs or boats or whatever. The problem with all that stuff is you don't use it enough. That you would like. And something this expensive, it really. I mean, second homes, they're all kind of the same way. If you have a partnership, you can really get almost the same amount of utilization. Even just one partner And you may find a great marriage. Like even if you're doing your flight train during the week, there might be a private pilot guy that just likes to fly around on the weekends, and you don't really want to fly around on the weekends because you're hardcore doing your flying on the week. And then that guy splits everything with you. I mean, that's half your annual, half your hangar, half your insurance. I mean, all that. And then if there's any unexpected expense or upgrade that needs to be on the airplane, or like in your case, Sean, you have a new motor, but let's say you would have bought that right before the motor was about to go. Well, then now you can split the cost of the new motor with your partner one or two or three ways, or however way you want to do it.
Yeah, so, it starts adding up. Yeah.
Right. And then I guess to support, we should mention there are full-on flying clubs. If you're lucky enough to have a good one near you, where they might have, there's one here in Cincinnati that has 5-6 airplanes, and then you buy into that. Right. And then you get access at a reduced rate to all, and those are all really good too. So lots of different options here with ownership. And it's really good to talk about because it doesn't work for most people, but if you find the right person in the right financial situation, I think it could be great. And like you said, availability too is a big thing, where you're at.
Yeah, absolutely. So, is it a good idea? In Karl's case, Karl, I would say it's a fantastic idea for you.
Karl sounds like he's doing good, though. Maybe we just go fly for him. Maybe we just
there we go.
Oh, man.
All right, folks. That's about all we got, I think. Thank you for joining us again. And if you haven't checked out that video on ATP, I know it's a long one, but skip through it. Find the stuff that's interesting to you. I think it's well put together. And Jamal was awesome to interview.
Yeah, we're going to try to follow up and have him on again as he advances in his training. Yep. And keep emailing us. We love the emails. That's how we found, well, actually, I found Jamal on YouTube, but the other guests, people reached out in the email and stuff. And if you have a great story, maybe you watched this video and you just did the same thing. You owned a plane and it worked out wonderful for you, or it worked out terrible. Email us. We'd love to interview you.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week.
All righty. Have a good one.